Little miss, your mother probably works housekeeping here. Black women in this hotel only do room service. Stop making up stories. Vincent Cross's words echoed through the marble lobby of the five-star Sterling Grand Hotel. 8-year-old Amara Thompson froze, her small hands clenched into fists, tears welling up in her eyes. But Vincent had no idea that day he would learn the most unforgettable lesson of his life. The Sterling Grand Hotel stood like a gleaming monument to wealth and privilege in Manhattan's Upper East Side. Its 47 floors pierced the New York skyline like a golden sword, each level more exclusive than the last. Vincent Cross had built this empire from nothing, transforming a single run-down Queens motel into a $2.8 billion hospitality kingdom over 30 grueling years. At 55, Vincent commanded respect through sheer financial force. The Sterling Grand wasn't just a hotel in his mind, it was his throne room, where foreign ministers conducted backroom deals. Tech billionaires announced world-changing mergers, and the global elite gathered to reshape entire economies with handshake agreements. But success had hardened Vincent's heart. Years of dealing exclusively with the ultra-wealthy had twisted his worldview. He believed people existed in fixed categories, winners and losers, the powerful and the powerless. In his experience, those categories aligned predictably with race and class, and he built his fortune by keeping everyone in their proper place. That crisp October morning, autumn sunlight streamed through massive windows, casting geometric patterns across Italian marble floors. The lobby buzzed with its usual symphony of wealth-soft elevator chimes, rustling designer clothing, hushed million-dollar conversations over champagne breakfast meetings. 8-year-old Amara Thompson sat quietly in an oversized velvet armchair near the lobby's centerpiece fountain. Her legs swung back and forth, not quite reaching the floor. She wore her favorite purple dress, the one her mother had bought for her 8th birthday, and clutched something precious in her small palm. Her grandmother, Dorothy Thompson, stood at the mahogany concierge desk across the lobby. At 68, Dorothy had weathered decades of racism with quiet dignity. She was handling final arrangements for their stay, her weathered hands signing documents with the careful precision of someone who'd learned never to give others reasons to doubt her competence. Dorothy had been raising Amara for 6 months while her daughter served overseas. It hadn't been easy as a retired schoolteacher on a fixed income, caring for an energetic child while constantly worrying about her daughter's safety in classified locations she couldn't even name. As Amara waited, a group of wealthy children gathered near the ornate fountain. They were the privileged offspring of the hotel's elite guests, kids who summered in the Hamptons, spoke multiple languages with their nannies, and carried themselves with the unconscious arrogance of those born into power. A blonde girl in a Gucci dress worth more than most families' monthly rent held court like a tiny queen. "My daddy just bought another bank," she announced casually, as if discussing a new toy. "That makes 3 now. He says by the time I'm 16, I'll control half of Wall Street's lending." "That's nothing," countered a boy with perfectly styled hair and old money breeding written in every gesture. "My mom just signed a Netflix deal worth $20 million. She's going to be famous worldwide. They're already talking about Emmy nominations." A red-headed girl whose tech mogul parents had revolutionized social media chimed in. "Well, my father invented the algorithm that every major platform uses. He literally makes money every time someone posts anything, anywhere in the world." Amara listened with growing excitement. Finally, she had something incredible to contribute. Her eyes lit up as she approached the group, small hand opening to reveal a military commendation medal, bronze and beautiful, hanging from a striped ribbon that caught the crystal chandelier light. "My mommy is a soldier," she announced proudly, her voice carrying pure joy and unshakable faith in her hero. "She's really, really important and goes on special missions to keep people safe. She's in the special forces." The wealthy children looked at her with confusion. This little black girl in her simple department store dress didn't fit their understanding of how power worked. In their experience, people who looked like her family worked for people who looked like their families. "A soldier?" the blonde girl asked, wrinkling her nose with distaste. "Like, in the actual army? With guns and combat and everything?" "She's in special forces," Amara continued enthusiastically, oblivious to their shifting expressions. "That means she's one of the absolute best soldiers in the entire world. She has medals like this one, and she protects really important people and does secret missions that are classified." The red-headed boy laughed mockingly. Special forces? That's like superhero movie stuff. Real people don't actually do those things. My mama does. Amara insisted, holding up the medal so it sparkled in the light. She gave me this before her last deployment. She said it would keep me safe while she was gone, and when she comes back, she'd tell me about all the people she helped save. Their conversation was interrupted by expensive leather shoes clicking against marble with authoritative precision. The children automatically straightened, recognizing power when they heard it approaching. What's all this commotion about? Vincent Cross approached like a king surveying his domain. His $15,000 Armani suit was perfectly tailored, silver hair styled to perfection, presence commanding immediate attention. Everything about him screamed wealth and dominance, from his Swiss watch worth more than most people's cars to the subtle cologne that probably cost $500 an ounce. Vincent had been crossing the lobby after a successful morning, meeting with the mayor's office about tax incentives for his next hotel project. He'd been in an excellent mood. The city was practically paying him to expand his empire, and his stock prices were hitting record highs. But children's voices always irritated him. The Sterling Grand wasn't a playground. We're discussing our parents' accomplishments, Mr. Cross, the blonde girl said sweetly, recognizing the hotel owner instantly. Her family had been Sterling Graham guests for 3 generations. Vincent's expression immediately warmed as he looked at the white children. These were future business leaders, inheritors of vast fortunes, the next generation of power brokers who would keep his empire profitable for decades to come. Ah, comparing family achievements, he said with an indulgent smile that never quite reached his calculating eyes. How wonderful. And what exciting ventures are your parents pursuing these days? The children eagerly recounted their accomplishments: banking empires, entertainment industry dominance, technological innovations that shaped global communication. Vincent nodded approvingly at each revelation, mentally cataloging potential business opportunities and strategic partnerships. Then his gaze fell on Amara. Something fundamental shifted in his expression. The warmth didn't disappear entirely, but it cooled several degrees. His smile became practiced, artificial, carrying the subtle condescension he reserved for people he considered beneath his notice. And what about you, little miss? He asked, his tone subtly different from the genuine interest he'd shown the other children. Amara stepped forward eagerly, still clutching her mother's medal. Her face glowed with pride and excitement, completely unaware of Vincent's shifting demeanor. I was telling them about my mama. She's a soldier, a really important one. She has ribbons and medals and everything, and she protects our whole country. She goes on secret missions and saves people. The silence that followed stretched like an eternity. Vincent's practiced smile faltered, revealing something colder underneath. The wealthy children shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of tension they couldn't understand, but instinctively recognized as dangerous. A soldier? Vincent repeated, his voice dripping with barely concealed skepticism. How imaginative. Yes, sir. Amara nodded enthusiastically, missing the dismissal entirely. She's in special forces. That means she's the very best. Only the smartest, strongest, bravest people get chosen. She has to be perfect at everything. Vincent looked down at this earnest little black girl with her discount dress and sincere expression. Everything about his worldview, built over decades of wealth and privilege, told him this was impossible. In his experience, people who looked like Amara's family didn't rise to positions of real importance. They cleaned rooms, served food, did invisible labor, while the real decision-makers, people who looked like him, shaped the world. How creative, Vincent said, voice thick with condescension. Children certainly have the most vivid imaginations. But Amara was too excited to notice his tone. She held up the medal, letting it catch the chandelier light, hands trembling with enthusiasm. It's not imagination, it's real. This is one of her medals. She gave it to me before her last mission. She said it would keep me safe, and when she comes back, she'd tell me about the important people she protected. Vincent examined the medal with mock interest, though he knew nothing about military commendations. To his cynical eye, it looked like something from a costume shop. That's very interesting, he said with patronizing patience. Tell me, where exactly does your mother serve? What unit? I can't tell you that, Amara replied with 8-year-old seriousness. Mama said her work is classified because it's really important for protecting good people from bad people. But she's a major, and that's really important. Several wealthy children began giggling softly. They were following the adults' social cues, sensing that mocking this girl was somehow acceptable in this golden palace of privilege. Vincent leaned down, bringing his face level with Amara's. His voice dropped to a whisper meant only for her ears, but carrying the weight of absolute authority and complete disdain. "Little miss, your mother probably works housekeeping here. Black women in this hotel only do room service. Stop making up stories." The world stopped for Amara Thompson. The metal slipped from her suddenly numb fingers, clattering onto the marble floor like a gunshot in a cathedral. The other children stared, not understanding the cruelty they'd witnessed, but sensing something terrible had happened. Amara's eyes filled with tears as Vincent's words crashed down like a building collapse. This powerful man, whom everyone treated with reverence, was telling her that her mother, her hero, her entire world, was nothing more than a liar and a cleaning lady. But she is a soldier," Amara whispered, voice breaking as tears began flowing. "She really is. She showed me pictures and everything." Vincent straightened, his public mask sliding back into place. His voice returned to normal volume, ensuring nearby guests could hear his performance of benevolent authority. "Children have such elaborate imaginations," he announced with projected understanding. "They create these fantasy stories about their parents being more important than they really are. It's quite common, especially among—" He paused meaningfully, letting his implications poison the air. The wealthy children giggled more openly now, emboldened by Vincent's obvious dismissal. They looked at Amara with pity and superiority emotions their parents had taught them to feel toward people they considered beneath them. "Now, why don't you go find your grandmother and stop bothering our valued guests?" Vincent continued, voice sharpening. "This is a place of serious business, not a playground for children's make-believe games." Amara stood frozen in that opulent lobby, tears streaming down her cheeks, her mother's medal lying forgotten like discarded trash. She had never felt smaller or more humiliated in her 8 years of life. The beautiful space that had seemed magical minutes before now felt like a courtroom, where she'd been found guilty of crimes she didn't understand. The other children dispersed quickly, whispering among themselves about the weird girl who made up stories. Some of their parents had noticed the commotion and nodded approvingly at Vincent's handling keeping social order intact, maintaining the hotel's exclusive atmosphere, putting people in their proper places. Dorothy Thompson had been watching this exchange from across the lobby, her paperwork forgotten. She'd seen her granddaughter's face light up with joy, then crumble with devastation. 70 years of experience had taught her to recognize racism in all its forms. But seeing it directed at innocent Amara ignited protective fury in her weathered heart. She crossed the lobby with quick, determined steps, sensible shoes clicking against marble with righteous anger barely held in check. Every stride brought back memories of her own humiliations, her own battles against a world that insisted she know her place. "Mr. Cross," Dorothy said, voice steady despite the fire burning in her chest. "That was completely unnecessary." Vincent turned with the same dismissive expression he'd shown Amara. In his mind, Dorothy was another member of the service class, someone who should be grateful to breathe the same air as his valued guests. "Ma'am," Vincent replied with exaggerated patience, "I operate a respectable establishment. I cannot have children disrupting guests with attention-seeking behavior and fabricated stories." "Fabricated stories?" Dorothy's voice rose, drawing attention from other lobby occupants. "That child spoke the absolute truth about her mother." Vincent laughed, a sound carrying 30 years of accumulated arrogance and prejudice. "Please, we both know what employment opportunities are realistically available to people of your ... background. Let's deal with facts, not fantasy." The words hit Dorothy like physical blows, but she'd survived worse. She'd endured segregation, decades of being told she wasn't smart enough, worthy enough. But this was different. This was about her granddaughter, the next generation that was supposed to inherit a better world. "You have absolutely no idea what you're talking about," Dorothy said quietly, voice carrying dangerous undertones that made nearby guests pause their conversations. "I know exactly what I'm talking about," Vincent replied, his politeness mask slipping. "I've built this empire by understanding people and their natural place in the social order. Your daughter cleans hotel rooms, and your granddaughter needs to learn the difference between fantasy and reality." The lobby had grown noticeably quieter. Conversations died as people tuned into this confrontation. Some watched with disapproval, not at Vincent's racism, but at the disruption to their luxury experience. Others seemed entertained by the spectacle. Amara tugged desperately on her grandmother's sleeve, face red with shame and confusion. "Grandma, please, can we just go? I want to leave. I don't like this place anymore." Dorothy knelt down, gently retrieving the fallen medal and placing it back in Amara's trembling hands. Her voice was soft but carried clearly through the marble space. "Baby girl, don't you ever let anyone make you ashamed of your mama. She's a hero who risks her life so people like us can live in freedom and safety. Heroes don't work in hotel housekeeping," Vincent muttered loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Heroes don't fill their children's heads with impossible dreams." That was Dorothy's breaking point. She stood to her full height, not impressive physically, but radiating dignity that seemed to fill the space around her like light pushing back darkness. "Mr. Cross," she said, with authority earned through 4 decades of teaching children to believe in themselves, despite a world that constantly diminished them. "You're about to learn something your money and privilege and marble floors can't teach you. You're about to learn what real power looks like." Vincent scoffed, his arrogance reaching new heights. "Real power? Lady, I own buildings worth more than small countries' GDP. I employ thousands. I have senators on speed dial. Don't lecture me about power." "The power I'm talking about," Dorothy continued with calm certainty, "doesn't come from bank accounts or political connections. It comes from character. From genuine sacrifice for others. From serving something infinitely bigger than your own ego." "Spare me the sermon," Vincent replied dismissively. "I live in the real world where results matter more than pretty speeches." Dorothy smiled, an expression somehow both gentle and absolutely terrifying, like calm before a hurricane that would reshape everything. "The real world," she said quietly, "is about to walk through that door, Mr. Cross, and when it does, I hope you remember this moment." Vincent was preparing another condescending response when the sound reached his ears. Bootsteps. Not the soft shuffle of expensive shoes or delicate click of designer heels that usually graced his lobby. These were different, precise, measured, authoritative. Military boots on marble, creating rhythm that made the building itself seem to stand at attention. The massive entrance doors swung open with force that sent autumn winds swirling through the lobby, rustling expensive clothing and making crystal chandeliers tinkle softly. Major Keisha Thompson walked through those doors like she owned not just the ground beneath her feet, but the air around her and the future stretching ahead. Her Special Forces dress uniform was absolutely pristine, every crease perfect, every button gleaming, every ribbon and medal positioned with mathematical precision that spoke of military discipline and professional excellence. But it wasn't the uniform that commanded immediate attention from every person in that marble palace. It was the woman wearing it. Keisha moved with controlled grace of someone trained to eliminate enemy combatants with bare hands, but who carried that lethal capability with quiet dignity of a true professional. Her posture was flawless, her gaze swept the room with tactical awareness that missed nothing, and her presence seemed to shift the molecular structure of the space she occupied. Every conversation in the lobby died instantly. Wealthy guests, accustomed to commanding attention worldwide, found themselves unconsciously straightening spines. Hotel staff who served the most powerful people on Earth suddenly remembered what genuine authority looked like. "Major Thompson," called James Morrison, the head concierge, voice carrying genuine respect and perhaps relief. "We weren't expecting you until evening, ma'am." Keisha nodded curtly, but her eyes were already scanning with practiced efficiency of someone trained to assess threats and assets within seconds. Her gaze swept past wealthy guests with their designer comfort, past opulent decorations and symbols of civilian power, locking onto what mattered most: her daughter. Standing in the middle of that marble palace, tears streaming down her beautiful face, clutching a military medal like a lifeline while surrounded by people who turned her into unwelcome entertainment. The moment Keisha saw Amara's distress, something fundamental shifted in her expression. The professional soldier remained, but was joined by something infinitely more dangerous, a mother's protective instinct activated by seeing her child in pain. "I'm here to collect my family," Keisha said, voice carrying across the lobby with quiet authority that made generals pause and presidents take careful notes. Amara's head snapped up at her mother's voice. For a split second, she couldn't believe it. After 6 months of deployment, of missing her mother every day, of enduring questions about when she'd return, there she was. Real, present, perfect. "Mama!" Amara screamed, breaking free from Dorothy's protective embrace and running across the lobby with abandon. "Mama! You really came back." The sight of her 8-year-old daughter sprinting toward her with pure joy melted the controlled facade Kaisha had maintained during months of dangerous operations. She dropped to one knee and opened her arms wide, catching Amara in an embrace that redefined the concept of reunion. For a moment, the fierce Special Forces operator disappeared entirely, replaced by a mother who'd spent 6 months in hostile territory with nothing sustaining her except the promise that she'd make it home to this precious child. "Of course I came, baby girl," Kaisha whispered, voice thick with emotion she rarely allowed herself to feel. "I promised I'd be back today, didn't I?" Mama always keeps her promises. Vincent Cross stood frozen, watching this scene unfold with growing horror as reality crashed down with crushing clarity. This black woman in military uniform covered with decorations, he was beginning to suspect might be devastatingly real, was embracing the child he'd just publicly humiliated. "Mama," Amara whispered urgently, words tumbling over each other in excitement and distress. "The mean man said you weren't really a soldier. He said you just clean rooms here. He said I was making up stories about you being important." The change in Kaisha's expression was subtle but unmistakable. The gentle mother remained fully present, but was joined by something forged in combat zones. Something that had stared down international terrorists without flinching. Something that had made life-and-death decisions under pressure that would crush most people. She stood slowly, lifting Amara in her arms with careful strength of someone who'd carried wounded soldiers to safety, and turned to face Vincent Cross with focused attention. She usually reserved for enemy combatants posing direct threats to national security. "Me, man?" Kaisha's voice was soft, but carried undertones that made marble walls vibrate with potential energy. Dorothy stepped forward, face showing mixture of immense pride in her daughter and anticipation of what was about to unfold. "That's him, baby, Mr. Cross, the owner. He told your child that black women only do room service, and accused her of lying about having a hero for a mother." The lobby fell into complete silence. Every person in that space, from wealthiest international guests to most junior staff, sensed they were about to witness something extraordinary. Kaisha set Amara down gently, movements precise like a predator preparing to engage a threat. She approached Vincent with measured pace of someone who'd walked through active minefields, negotiated with dangerous warlords, faced down enemies of the state in rooms far more perilous than this gilded lobby. Each step echoed with authority no amount of money could purchase. "Mr. Cross," Kaisha said, voice carrying weight of command that had led elite soldiers through the most classified operations in modern military history, "I believe you've met my daughter." Vincent's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. His face had drained of color, hands beginning to tremble as full implications crashed down on him. I didn't realize. She said she claimed she was what?" Kaisha interrupted, eyes never leaving his face. "A soldier," Vincent whispered, the word barely audible. "And you found that difficult to believe?" Vincent looked around desperately, seeking escape or support, but found neither. Every face focused on this confrontation with fascination rather than sympathy. The space felt like a courtroom, and he was clearly the defendant. I just assumed ... Statistically speaking, people of her ... of your ... Statistically speaking, what, Mr. Cross? Kaisha's voice remained calm, but something beneath it made veteran combat soldiers choose words carefully. That black women couldn't serve with distinction? That we couldn't earn advanced degrees, specialized training, and command respect? James Morrison stepped forward, voice carrying across the lobby with professional clarity and barely concealed satisfaction at his boss's predicament. "Mr. Cross, Major Thompson has been our security consultant for 3 years. She personally designs and implements all high-profile guest protection protocols, threat assessment procedures, and emergency response systems." Vincent's blood pressure spiked as this processed. Security consultant? Major Thompson personally designs security arrangements for foreign dignitaries, heads of state, Supreme Court justices, Fortune 500 CEOs, and yes, billionaires who stay at Sterling Grand Properties. James continued, relishing every word. She holds clearances at the highest levels of government classification. Wealthy guests began murmuring with growing recognition. Several remembered the quiet professional who'd been present during their most sensitive stays, the person who'd ensured their family's safety from potential threats, who'd coordinated seamlessly with federal agencies. Kaisha reached into her jacket with fluid motion of someone accustomed to being armed, but pulled out leather credentials folder instead of a weapon. She opened it with practiced efficiency, revealing official documents, photographs, and commendations that made Vincent's business awards look like participation trophies. My security clearance is top secret C with additional compartmented access, Kaisha said matter-of-factly. I lead a joint task force that handles sensitive operations in 17 countries. The work I do keeps people like you safe while you sleep in luxury beds, counting comfortable money. She flipped through several pages with military precision, each document testament to capabilities Vincent couldn't comprehend. Awards for valor, commendations for leadership under fire, certificates from training programs that broke most candidates. But more importantly than any credentials, Kaisha continued, voice taking on an edge that cut through refined atmosphere like a blade, I'm a mother. And today, someone decided to humiliate my 8-year-old daughter by telling her that her mama wasn't worthy of respect. The silence was so complete that Vincent's expensive watch-ticking seemed loud. Every eye focused on this confrontation with laser intensity, every ear straining to catch words of what would clearly be remembered for years. Major Thompson, Vincent stammered, voice cracking with stress, I sincerely apologize. I had no idea who you were. You had no idea? Kaisha cut him off, voice sharp as a blade. Or you made assumptions based on skin color and decided my daughter was lying. Vincent's hands shook visibly now. In all his years of building his empire, negotiating with powerful people, commanding boardrooms and bending city councils, he'd never felt smaller or more exposed. I made assumptions, he admitted, voice breaking. Terrible, inexcusable, racist assumptions based on nothing but ignorance and prejudice. You did much more than that, Kaisha continued relentlessly. You attempted to destroy something precious. You tried to teach my daughter that pride in her mother's service was shameful. You tried to convince her that people who look like us don't deserve belief when we tell the truth about our achievements. Amara had been watching with wide, intelligent eyes. Now she tugged on her mother's uniform sleeve. Mama, does this mean the mean man believes you're really a soldier now? Kaisha knelt to her daughter's level, voice softening but remaining audible to everyone. Baby girl, Mama has always been a soldier. Some people just need to learn that heroes come in all colors and strength has nothing to do with bank account size. She stood and faced Vincent again. Mr. Cross, my daughter looks up to me with pure love and pride. Your words today could have damaged something irreplaceable in her spirit, her belief in her own worth and the value of truth itself. Do you understand the gravity of what you attempted? Vincent nodded through tears, unable to speak as shame crashed down like a building collapse. I understand, he finally whispered. And I'm deeply, profoundly ashamed. Shame can be a starting point, Kaisha said firmly. But what matters is what you choose to do next. The entire lobby watched as this billionaire, this man who commanded business empires and influenced government policy, stood utterly humbled before a soldier and her 8-year-old daughter. What can I do? Vincent asked, voice barely audible. How can I make this right? Kaisha considered this carefully. You can start by apologizing to my daughter, really apologizing. Vincent knelt in his expensive suit, looking directly at Amara. I was wrong. Your mama is a hero, and you should be proud every day. I'm sorry I hurt you. Amara studied his face seriously. Do you promise to never be mean to kids about their parents again? I promise, Vincent said, and meant it. Okay then. Mama says everyone deserves a second chance. As guests approached Major Thompson with genuine respect, Vincent finally understood what real power looked like. Not money or connections, but character and service. 2 weeks later, Vincent established the Heroes Come in All Colors Scholarship Fund with $50 million, with Amara as the first recipient. He overhauled his hotel's practices and instituted comprehensive bias training led by Major Thompson herself. Amara never forgot that day, not the humiliation, but watching her mama walk through those doors and show everyone what true strength looked like. She learned that truth always finds a way to reveal itself, no matter how powerful the people trying to hide it. Major Keisha Thompson continued serving her country while teaching her daughter that heroism has no color. It's about serving something greater than yourself. And Vincent Cross? He learned that respect isn't bought with money. It's earned through actions and given to every person, regardless of who you think they are. Sometimes the most powerful lessons come from the smallest voices. Sometimes justice arrives in combat boots, carrying authority earned through service and sacrifice. If this story touched your heart, remember that heroes come in all colors. The most important battles aren't fought with weapons, but with truth, integrity, and the belief that every person deserves respect.